Productivity methods, do they really work? Things in ways you do to implement in your daily life to be more productive. There's a huge chunk of videos out there about different things that you can use, different categories of stuff that you can do to improve the productivity in your daily life. Now, I think the first thing that you gotta think about is, what does productivity actually mean? And there's the actual definition of productivity, and then there's my definition, which might be the actual definition, I'm not sure. But the way I see productivity is, you have a set amount of time, a limited amount of time, and you want to make the best use of that time in your day to achieve your goals, become more successful, study, whatever else you want to do. You just want to create this balance between, you don't want to waste that time, but at the same time, but you want to increase the efficiency of that time. So now we go from what does the word actually mean to what does it mean to you, and more like from what to why do you want to do it. And this will be a big part of you being productive, because if you have a strong enough why, all the sacrifices you make towards that goal, they're going to seem like nothing. So you got to think about, why do you want to be more productive? Do you want to study more, achieve better grades? Do you want to be more successful? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to be fit or work out, exercise, and all of that? Whatever you want to do, you got to think, why do I want to be productive? And from, and you might ask, why should you listen to me? Now, I am not somebody that has much evidence behind me, behind like my social media and everything, but what I do have is knowledge that I've achieved from, first of all, reading books like Atomic Habits, which is the book on habits. And then I've listened to Dr. Andrew Huberman talk about different parts of your body and how it works and stuff. And then we got Ali Abdaal, which is the productivity expert. I mean, he wrote a book called Feel Good Productivity, and like, he even has a productive skincare routine. I didn't even know that was a thing. But and besides that, I also have Alex Hormozy, which is more of a mental thing. Like, he helped me change my mentality, whereas the other people, they also helped me change my mentality, but they mostly helped me change my environment around me to make it best suited for me as a human being. If you've done any amount of research behind being productive, I think you'd have definitely, almost certainly, come across habits. And habits really are, like, they make us. A lot of the things you do in a day, a lot of the activities you do in a day, most of them are just habits. Like, you might think you are in control of them, but it's just the way that environment has shaped you, and now you just do them without even thinking. An example is, in the morning, first thing you do is you go to the toilet, probably brush your teeth, hopefully, please. Wash your face, if you have a skincare routine, you do that. And once you do it enough times, it just becomes automotive. Like, you don't even have to think about doing it. And that's what an habit is. So I think I'd like to give definitions from Alex Hormozy, my mentality mentor. Um, give your definitions to certain words that we use in a day-to-day life. So a habit to me is a certain thing or activity you repeat every day, 100 times a day, once a day, 100 days. And once you repeat it enough times for enough length of time, it will become so, like, you will just be able to do it without even thinking about it. It will become automotive. And so that is what productivity really is. I mean, it's not necessarily, like, being productive doesn't really take much mental, like mental strength and stuff. It's just more of, you shape your environment, you shape everything around you so that it fits you being more productive, instead of you trying to fit to the environment, if you understand what I'm saying. So if you don't want to listen to me, by the way, Atomic Habits is a great book. Read to it. This is kind of my summary of how I understood the book. So if you want more detailed information, you can go read the book by James Clear. Great book. A lot of people will recommend it. And I think we start with, how do you actually build a habit? And James Clear, Alex Hormozy, and a few other guys, they explain this kind of habit loop. So you have a cue, For example, the brushing your teeth, the cue would be when you wake up, you got like your breath stinks. Maybe, your mouth doesn't taste as good to you, and you want it to be, that doesn't want to happen. And so you have next from a cue is a craving. A craving is you wanting to have fresh breath, that minty taste, just be more confident when you speak because you brush your teeth and all that. So that's the craving. Next, we have a response. A response is obviously you brush your teeth. Hopefully, you don't just leave it and you just go about your life. But yeah, you brush your teeth. And finally, we got the reward. And the reward is when you brush your teeth, you have that mint, like that mint feeling. You have that confidence, you take the breath is great and you're just ready to, I don't know, go out there and talk to people if you're not an introvert. I don't know. But yeah, you do that and that's one loop and you do that again and again and again and again and your body just get used to it and just whenever it sees this cue it has a craving, that craving leads to a response, the response leads to a reward, and this just repeats itself. As long as the reward is there, the loop will always happen. As long as the cue is there, craving, response, any of these factors, it will always be there. Now breaking the habit is just doing the opposite of what this loop does. If there's a cue, well, now you gotta remove the cue. Let's say more of a, not necessarily, I guess, a good habit is just a way a lot of people waste their time is gaming. By the way, if you do gaming, you enjoy that time because it depends. Because you also, like I said, you gotta give meaning to what productive means to you. If gaming is productive to you, then that's fine with me. But if studying is more productive than gaming, then that should up the level. If you understand what I mean. And so, as I was saying, you first of all you remove your cue. So let's say for gaming, you might just be able to see your console, PS4, PS5, Xbox, whatever. You see the console, and now you're craving. Now you want a game. And so if you remove that craving, you can just, after a game session, you can just completely unplug the PS4, PS5. You unplug the console, put it in like a closet or somewhere. Just leave it there. So then once you have, because the cues, there's usually hundreds of cues. It's not just that, like your friend might mention it or whatever, but it's the effort you have to put in to take out the console and then plug it back in and just do all of this, and you just obviously don't necessarily want to do that. From the cue, if the cue is in there, the craving won't there, and if the craving is in there, the response won't be there, and finally, if the response isn't there, obviously there will be no reward, and your body is just not going to want to do that anymore. So that's how you build habits, and yeah, it's if you make productivity a habit, that will be so much easier. But there's one big point that I understood from the book is that habits, they shouldn't last more than 2 minutes. When you're doing a habit, mainly you're kind of focusing on the cue, the craving and response, and then the reward is after. But the cue, that's kind of where you need to make the cue as fast as possible. I'm trying to implement running into my life, and my cue is my running clothes. As soon as I see them, I got a craving of putting them on. I put them on, and as soon as I put them on, I'm on like a running mode. I 100% know I'm running at that time, unless there's like a huge storm outside, or I don't know, I can literally not walk or move outside. I'm gonna go running. So that is habits formation and breaking could literally is like one of the best weapons in your artillery towards achieving the highest level of success. Now that we know how to build and break a habit, we gotta learn how to maintain the habit and how to make sure or make it more probable that you continue to do the habit. And so the way you do this is by, let me give you an example. If I say I want to go running as an action, if I say I want to be a runner, that is an identity that I want to have. So you should change your habit or whatever you want to do to make it a identity instead of an action, because you're more likely to stick to our identity. If I call myself a runner and I tell people that and then they call me out on it and I can't perform, I'm gonna be embarrassed. So I want to keep true to my identity. Same like if you're a gamer and you call yourself a gamer, you're gonna be able to have the skills to be a gamer, so that if anybody wants to versus you or 1v1 in a building 90s or whatever, I am a little bit old, and you're able to do that. So that is changing your mindset. Changing your environment is where Dr. Andrew Huberman comes in. If you want to learn more about this, you should look at his podcast. But he talks about how there's certain cycles that go through, your body in a day. And one thing I learned from him is the first half of the day is more of where you should be focusing on studying, revising, and just more cognitive behavior, because your brain can work better doing that. Whereas later half of the day is when you are able to be more creative. So, that's where, for example, I study in the morning and I try and come up with video ideas later, in the afternoon or in the evening. And that has worked for me. That continues to work for me, and so I will keep doing that. But you should just see what works for you. If you are young, hopefully, you have so much freedom with your time. You should just continue to experiment with stuff, so that once something works, you keep that and you just refine that. So then, once you are older and to your future self is going to be so thankful to you. And that is what I do. I've got a image of my future self and who is he is, and I'm just trying to get to that future self, to be him. And he is all that I want to be, without the stuff, all the bad stuff that I am. And so, another thing you can change is your phone, which you probably expect me to come to, but your phone takes a lot of your time, takes a lot of your attention, and that is all really your phone. Like, that is the bad part of your phone. There's so much good stuff you can do with it, because it is like the most power humans have had in the palm of their hands. Because information is the thing. I mean, as humans, we have a big brain and we can remember something, we can learn, and phones make that so easy, because learning is our weapon, and phones are the artillery for that. And we've got infinite artillery almost. And one thing you can do is delete social media. I mean, social media takes so much up so much of your time. If you use a lot of social media, just go on your screen time and check how much social media apps use. Just notice how much of that time, that precious time in your day to day, it uses. And you can't just get rid of them. You can always just hide the apps, make it less easy to access them. Maybe put them in another device if you have a laptop, iPad, or whatever, and you just put it there. So it's harder for you to access, but you still have access to them somewhere. And lastly, the last thing you can do, well, the last thing I did, for example, is I turned my phone to grayscale, because color is also something that captures your attention. If you're watching a YouTube video or whatever, they change the camera angle so many times that is just kind of changing the visual, because your visual, what you see, is a lot of people try and use that. I've done the same. I've got this good view behind this beautiful view behind me, which by the way is so cool. So if you don't want to look at this face right here, you can look at that instead, which is probably better. And so it has worked for me. It might work for you. Like I said, try and experiment with stuff. And and if you don't know why you're doing this, that is the thing. If you want to take one thing from this video, is you got to figure out why you want to be more productive. What is your why? Once you find that, it's going to become so easy. It's just that uphill part is why you do it. That downhill part is how you do it. And so all of this to me is to gain freedom. If I can choose what to do with my time instead of apps and instead of people and other things choosing for me, I don't like that. I don't want that. Instead of, I want freedom of my time, and you probably want the same. And so I think that's what you should work towards. Keep growing.